We're seeing a shift from creatine going from a muscle supplement to more of a mind supplement. We're understanding the whole role that creatine plays in the body, right? It's not a muscle supplement. It's not really making your muscles bigger. It's an energy supplement. And when we understand that it's an energy supplement, then anything that requires a lot of energy in your body, right? So muscles are energy hungry, but your brain is even more energy hungry. So in terms of performance, yes, it will help muscle performance, intensity in the gym, but it will also support cognitive performance. The fundamental energy unit is ATP, or adenosine triphosphate. And one of the things is that when you use ATP, it goes from ATP to ADP, or adenosine diphosphate. And what creatine does is serves as almost an energy backup to regenerate the ADP, the used form of ATP, back to the usable form, which is the adenosine triphosphate. And when you can regenerate that ATP, now you can have more energy, you can recuperate better. And so it's helping muscle function, brain function, many things across the board. This is a very key point to understand. If you had 8 hours of sleep, your nutrition was great, and you're just positive and upbeat, if you took creatine, you may not notice much of a difference. However, if you were sleep deprived, if you were under a lot of cognitive demand, let's say you were playing competitive chess or competitive gaming, now you got increased cognitive demand. Your brain represents 2% of your body weight, but it uses 20% of your energy. When your cognitive demand goes up, and now you have this energy backup system in the form of stored creatine, you will see a difference. As more and more products come into the marketplace, creatine sodas and creatine gummies and everything like that, we have to keep in mind that who needs it the most. Two populations come to mind. One, women, as they're transitioning into menopause. Their energetic system, particularly in the muscle and the brain, is changing because of the decline in the estrogen support. And so these are the women that benefit most by taking creatine because it gives them the energetics to support the cognitive load as well as the muscle aspects of retaining muscle. The second population is vegans and vegetarians, right? So we know that creatine is the main source is meat as well as certain fish. And so if you're a vegan, you're not getting that much creatine in your diet. If you're not getting creatine in your diet, your reserves are low. And if your reserves are low, you don't have that quote unquote battery backup as we talked about. So when these two populations implement creatine supplementation, they see a significant increase in their performance just because their stored levels are low. We're going to see this whole flood of products coming into the market. And one thing to keep in mind is that, number one, there are going to be many companies trying to promote different forms of creatine. However, the most researched form is still creatine monohydrate. So you want to look out for that. In terms of dosing, we know that the tested doses, particularly the 5 grams per day, is usually the suggested dose. And we know that, even up to 10 or 20 have a relative safety profile, but most people sort of promote that 5-gram dose as a nice, safe number. The third thing to look out for is third-party testing. You want to make sure that the product has gone through enough testing so that, you're getting enough of the creatine. If it says 5 grams, are you getting the 5 grams? Us in the medical field, when something becomes a popular trend, we always worry about the safety issue. And creatine, again, is one of those things. And the question becomes that, is creatine safe? Now, we know that when you do take creatine, it does, because creatine is a breakdown product of creatine supplementation, it does raise your blood levels of that byproduct. Recent studies have shown that when you take creatine, yes, it does raise the creatine byproduct, but it does not necessarily mean that your kidneys are being damaged or decrease in renal function at that level. As long as you stay within the recommended dosages, like as I mentioned, 5 grams remains the recommended dose. A strong caveat here is that people who have impaired renal function, particularly diabetics, people, pregnant women, or if you're taking medication that is filtered through the kidneys, then this is a conversation you need to have with your physician. And if you're considering creatine supplementation, if you fall into any one of these categories, that is something that you need to figure out with your health practitioner.